But notice the beauty of this room and of the ceiling. So this must have been an important room, whatever it was. Now used as an armory. Very much a chapel-like religious look to it. Beautifully carved entryway. Notice that the ceilings are sloped from high to the right to low to the left. Notice the massiveness of the beams supported here on 3 columns. This looks like it might be original work in these window arches. You can see the curve in those beams. Is that a product of the castle settling? Of the great weight above those beams? Or both? Interesting instrument. Looks like some kind of a rattling device, maybe shaking her up and down or whatever. Hear the tingling bells of a glockenspiel. Beautiful doorways, beautiful carving. Look at the depth of that carving. These windows, how they're slanted, as though they were designed for some defensiveness. Could it be, though, that it was simply to control airflow? This would have been a tiny chapel with a curious altarpiece now. And look at these symbols that were painted on the walls. Very elaborate one. Perhaps one of the most decorative ones I've seen. This furniture from the Middle Ages, period between 1500 and 1600. That's beautiful carving on that chest. Took an athlete to get into bed. How many times did I bang my feet on this edge? It's almost as though they had a fear of falling out of bed. Some arches that have been exposed that were covered up during some earlier modification of the castle. That's kind of interesting. This probably was an exterior wall, and this was covered up when the building was expanded. Simplicity of that pattern. Beautiful little chests these were. Notice the exquisite paintings on them. How the person who had these must have cherished. Women's belts, I guess. Don't know what that long thing is. This is the same period of time. What an exquisite little metal box. Wonder what it was used for. Notice the top is hinged, so it folds back the first half and then opens up totally. Replicas of the ceramic ovens or heaters. Another old door. Notice how it's made of plates of iron that are hammered together. Interesting. Perhaps it is an old archaeological dig on the castle. But what's interesting is you get a sense of how interface a building with natural rock. Not the first time we've seen it, of course. Back to the day when the engineer or whatever stood maybe where I am and looked at this and said, okay, I'm going to draw a line right along here. I want you to go straight down, create a wall about 1.5 feet deep. Okay, then I want you to come over a little ways, knock another one straight down for me. Okay, thanks. This is an interesting view. There's the church, of course. This is an inner courtyard. Whether I'll see this again or not, I don't know. With the plants down there. Is this some hint of how it might have looked occasionally? It's the architecture of those archways with what look like buttresses underneath the top of the arch. But remember, this was only a fortress for a while, and for a long time it was the archbishop's hangout as they began to build their power until they could exploit it and demonstrate it in the residence in its full glory. Here another portion of the complex that might have been built by the archbishops, which is why it has that church archy look, if you will. Here we are, outside in the area we were looking at a moment ago. Looks very archbishopy. Assume that the part that we're looking at here has always been visible. It's the part below that was disguised, covered up. And notice still some remnant of what might have been frescoes. My bet is that these are stones that once were the covers of crypts. Just a guess. It could be that these are details that came off the walls or might have been embedded in the original floor and reassembled here as much as the pieces would allow reassembly. You can see that these panels are composed of pieces. But there again, colors on the walls, the plaster. Notice there's more than one layer of plaster. The layer of plaster that has color is underneath a more surface layer. This is where the chapel would have been in the Romanesque period. Understand these photos because they don't appear to reflect what we're looking at. They're just designed to give us an idea of what might have been here. These are remnants of the earlier frescoes, probably from the period 1120 to 1150. Some of the artifacts found. Imagine the moments when the person pressed in that design. Was it before lunch or after? What was he looking forward to that evening? I don't know what these little balls were for. Game? Again, this plaster work that may well have been an applique rather than carved into the stucco. But it's somebody's work, somebody's hand that did this. So now we're wandering back down into that main area that we started at when we first came into the fortress, I believe. This is the side of the chapel. There's a sundial there, but for some reason it's not working today. Walk down from where those folks are coming, out, past the chapel, just to show this upper courtyard, if you will. And then we exit down a ramp that I could see came from my right when I first came up through the gates. This was the castle guards building to the right of where I was shooting that last clip. This is the torture chamber. It was never used as such, but it was used for storing the implements of torture and ultimately as a prison. This was dropped on people. That's what that sharp edge is for. It was dropped at various places to break the bones. And then the person was, I think, attached to a post and that shattered. This is how the glockenspiel works. And this is how this organ works in here.
Footpath back down to town.